Audio only anywhere you want me. You could get me. Merchandise link below in the description. Listen, first things first. How's your blood pressure level? I feel, listen, if I sound rough or look rough, I'm recording this the morning after the game on Labor Day. If I look like crap and sound like crap, it's because I aged 5 years and 5 hours last night unnecessarily. That's the reason. If I look and sound rougher than usual, I aged 5 years and 5 hours, and it didn't have to be that way. But because it's Notre Dame, nothing's easy. Nothing could just be what it's supposed to be. There's always complications. Now, I said all eyes were on you, and it certainly was. It entertained the entire country. Imagine if you're just a casual Notre Dame fan, that's the only ball game on. It was back and forth, went into overtime. That's exactly what you want if you are a casual fan, which I am not. I do not appreciate this level of unneeded stress, anxiety, and incompetence week one against this team. Okay? Now, the major takeaway from this, by most reasonable people, I believe, will be Florida State's a lot better this year than most people thought they would be. And maybe Notre Dame has taken a step back, which is what most people thought they would do this year. I think based off this one game, that's kind of a reasonable takeaway until we have other data that suggests something differently one way or another. But after one game, if you're a casual fan, you'll be saying Florida State came to play. They look good. Notre Dame has a lot of athletes, but they have some weak spots as well, and we're certainly going to get into that. We blew an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter and should have been up 17-0, 21-0 early in this game. I do not like that. What did we say in the pregame? The longer you mess around and let this team hang around with their the longer you do that, the longer the likelihood of something stupid happening. And it almost did. And I don't have the patience for it. Should have been up 17-0, 21-0, 14-0 at a minimum, and you weren't. Then you came back, built an 18-point lead, and fell apart in the fourth quarter. Unacceptable, and you should just be, all these Notre Dame players and coaches should be at the grotto first thing this morning, praying to God, thanking them they found a way to escape this nightmare in Trailer Hassie. So, here's where I'm going to start. Total credit to Florida State. Florida State played hard all night. All of those factors I talked about in the pregame I was worried about with the environment specifically came into play. It was loud. It was hot. They were drinking all day, partying. Everybody was excited for football. Full stands again, all of that. The Bobby Bowden Memorial Super Bowl game. And then let's not forget about the Milton Hollywood script ESPN was writing as the game was going on. I bet you they're all crying because it didn't all work out. That kid came back and beat Notre Dame and they could write the full movie on it. Listen, it's a hell of a story, the Milton thing. I'm all for it. That's amazing that he almost got his leg chopped off and then he came back and he's playing football again. It's an amazing story, and I would have been all about him coming back and winning the game on anybody else except for us. That's where I draw the line with this Hollywood story. When it comes at our expense, I draw the line. But you could see ESPN, ABC, ESPN setting it all up, the movie ending script. Oh, even his surgeons on the sideline. Give me a break. Great story, but I draw the line when the finish comes at our expense. ESPN was crying that this didn't all come to fruition. that on Bobby Bowden's ghost day, he didn't come back and beat Notre Dame off one leg. So I'm glad we didn't allow that to happen. Great story, but not at our damn expense. That's where I draw the line here. Go ahead and do it against anybody else, not us. So, Florida State deserves credit. They played hard the entire game. They were flying around. They had energy start to finish. They played a good game. They were a lot tougher, more physical, faster, had more athletes than I even thought. Here's my question, though, about Florida State. Because of all the unique things that went into this particular ball game, I think it was relatively easy for Florida State to be up for this ball game with all the stuff I just mentioned going on. Will they be able to maintain that intensity in these upcoming games where it isn't that environment, primetime game of the week, a team you hate that you want to beat? That's my question. So I want to give them full credit for the way they played, but I do question, can they maintain that level throughout the year? And it's something to keep an eye on. But for last night, totally impressed and made me almost depressed. I don't have patience. I'm just telling you guys. I'm just telling you, I don't have the patience for a lot of what we're going to have to go over in a few minutes. I just don't. I don't have it in me to have patience for these discussions we're going to have. I don't. Aside from giving Florida State credit, here's the second thing I want to make very clear. As we get into this, let's keep in mind the win matters the most, but is not all that matters. Let me repeat that because the phrasing there is very important. The win is what matters the most, but it is not all that matters. I see a lot of these things on social media, people saying, yeah, rough game, but we got the win, and that's all that matters. That is not all that matters. Me feeling like we're going to be able to tackle in the second game also matters. Me feeling like we'll be able to run the ball for more than 2 yards a carry next week also matters. Those things also matter. So no, the win isn't all that matters. I need to go to sleep tonight feeling like we're going to be able to tackle in the next game. That matters to me too. And nobody's going to tell me it shouldn't or it doesn't. So no, the win isn't all that matters. Yes, it's the most important part. But feeling like we can actually be a normal football team next week also matters. And I got some major questions about that. Injuries. Fisher, sprain, leg, something, getting an MRI. They don't think it's too serious. Mola, Achilles, gone for the year. Losing depth at linebacker already. So that is not good. If there's any updated medical information I'm not mentioning here, it's because it came out after I recorded this show. I apologize. What was my big philosophical question entering this year? I brought it up nonstop all offseason into camp. Is Notre Dame reloading or rebuilding? That was the question that was going to determine the trajectory of this entire season. Okay? In true Notre Dame fashion, after 1 week, 1 game, we didn't get a clear answer to that. Here's what I see honestly, and this is very hard for me to say, but it's just my perspective. There are parts of this team that are indeed reloading, and there are parts at the same time that are rebuilding. But my fear is the rebuilding parts are going to drag down what the reloading parts are capable of doing. That's extremely frustrating. But having that reloading versus rebuilding in my mind, watching the game and keeping that at front and center, that's what I saw. There's areas that are reloading and we're fine, but the rebuilding parts are going to take away from it because they're not even okay. They're bad. They're not even okay. They're bad. So that's going to take away from the reloading parts because they're not even just okay, average, mediocre, bad. Just bad. Bad. So that's what I see, and it's incredibly frustrating. So I'm just worried the rebuilding parts are going to slow down the reloading parts, and it's going to average out to be a struggle every week against teams we should beat. That's just what I see. Prove me wrong next week. Go ahead. And even if you do, I'm going to say it's Toledo. So do it against Wisconsin, and I'll believe you. I'm sorry. You put me in a position where after 1 week, I don't trust you already. You just did. You just did. Don't go, oh, John, you're being hard on them. No. This is on them. They put me in a position to not trust them now after 1 week. By what I saw, I can't trust you. 38 points to Florida State. Offense can't run the ball. I don't trust you. Are you out of your mind? I can't trust that. I can't. So we got a lot to work through here because I'm struggling. We mentioned how important it was for Notre Dame to get off to a fast start in this environment, stop the chop, all that stuff I came up with. We needed a fast start, and we got it. A passing touchdown to our best player and a few 3-and-outs on defense. Things were looking fantastic, exactly what you wanted to see. I'm tweeting the Freeman factor, and this offense, this is exactly what I want to see. And then the struggle bus hit, and it spiraled downhill quickly and pretty much stayed that way all night, in my opinion. And I don't understand why, but I don't like it at all. There's so much about what happened that I just don't understand. Like practically, philosophically, statistically. I just don't understand. I need answers. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Now, I mean, I'll credit Notre Dame for getting the win and ultimately overcoming this rough environment and all that, stopping the Hollywood movie Milton thing and all that. I get it. They ended up doing the ultimate task, but this is not what I envisioned, and many of the serious fears I had 100% came true. Some of the exact specific fears we talked about on all of our pregame shows, all offseason and into fall camp happened. It all happened. It all happened. The offensive line has major issues. Not good. Just not good at football. O-line we brag about it all the time. Can't even run for 2 yards a carry against rebuilding Florida State. O-line you. Yeah, that's great. Quentin Nelson's not coming through that door. He's not. He's gone. He's gone. Okay? Secondary issues. There you go. Burned, toasted, over the top, touchdown, change momentum. Unacceptable. That's unacceptable football. It's unacceptable football for where this program's supposed to be at. Okay? Now, the flip side of that is there were some positives. We won the game, put up a lot of points. We did push the ball downfield more than previously, and it worked a lot. Okay? Wide receivers stepped up, and there were some really terrific, tough, contested catches made that Notre Dame guys came down with. The defense, trust me, we're going to get there. I have a lot of questions about this defense overall and a lot of questions about a guy that I've put myself out there and vouched for. We're going to have a conversation about him in a second, okay? So struggles with the defense, yes, but they made enough individual plays because of athletes like Kyle Hamilton that they did end up winning the game. But that being said, let's take a few minutes to break this down piece by piece, examine what we know, what we don't know, and what's in between that I gotta have answers to. I gotta have answers to these questions because it makes no sense. Okay, so we may as well go ahead and get this one out of the way first. We're going to start on the defensive side of the ball, and I got to be really honest with you guys. I am taking the defensive failures from last night personally. To say that I am completely devastated with what I saw out of the Marcus Freeman, hashtag the Freeman Factor defense, is enough to make me go insane. I just don't understand. I don't understand and I don't appreciate it. Go figure. John puts himself out there, takes a position, backs this Freeman guy in good faith for the future and what he's done in the past and his recruiting and all that. And what did I get in game one with him in charge? I got a Brian Van Gorder defense. That's what I got. I got a Brian Van Gorder defense last night, and I'm struggling emotionally and cognitively to process and handle this. To say I'm devastated would be an understatement. You know, I come up with the hashtag Freeman Factor. I got voicemails and messages telling me to burn the shirts and don't you look like an idiot? You back this guy. It's Brian Van Gorder part 2, all of this. I have to accept all of that because I was that guy that was pushing him. And here's the thing. I'm bitterly disappointed and devastated from the effort I saw. But a lot of the things defensively, most of it, I think can be worked on and tightened up. But this was a disgrace. 38 points to this team. Absolute disgrace. Totally unacceptable. I don't know what Freeman's thinking. This isn't Cincinnati. This isn't Cincinnati's schedule. I don't know what you're doing or what you were preaching or what you were practicing all fall practice because this was an unacceptable effort. And if it wasn't for some good personal plays like Kyle Hamilton being a freak that could cover the entire field, you would have lost the game. So I give those guys credit that had the interceptions for their individual efforts. But overall, this was 100% unacceptable. And if you're trying to impress week one at a new gig, this wasn't the way to do it. I'm devastated by how bad this defense looks. Fundamentals. And we'll get into the scheme and how that didn't make sense as the game went on. They can't tackle. They can't wrap up. That is just amateur high school football one-on-one. They don't wrap up. They don't tackle. And they have no gap integrity, gap discipline, getting gashed, giving up the big run, filling those spots where you're supposed to be, no. Wrapping up, no. When you make first contact, dropping the guy there, no. Florida State, quite frankly, wanted it more on a lot of these plays, and that's unacceptable. I can't handle it. So as the guy in charge of the hashtag Freeman Factor movement, I'm personally devastated, offended, appalled, and hurt. I'm just being honest. I've been taking shit nonstop since this started. Texts, voicemails, emails, direct messages, tweets, YouTube comments, you name it. So I'm taking all the bullets on this John takes a stance on something, backs this guy, and it looked like Brian Van Gorder out there minus the fist pump. Totally garbage. Totally garbage. Unacceptable. This is not Cincinnati. I don't know what you're doing, but it's not good enough. I'm offended and I'm hurt personally. I take a stance. It blows up in my face night one. Not month one, not game 4, week 1, night 1. 38 points to this team. Garbage. Fail. Garbage. Total garbage. Missed tackle Central USA is in South Bend, Indiana. Here's what I did like, especially early. Lots of penetration, guys getting near the guy, but they just don't finish. And then it doesn't do you any good. Not finishing, not wrapping up, bad gap integrity, tackling fundamentals. We didn't have any of it, and I don't understand that. What in the hell did you do all fall? Practice, like the fall lead up, the fall camp. What did you do? Is this one of those things where, well, we don't want to get guys hurt, so we really don't practice tackling in the camp, or what? Wrap up. It's high school football. This is a Brian Van Gorder discussion I'm having again, when this guy was supposed to be the next big thing, and I was in the head of the movement. Now, it is still week 1, game 1. I am not ready to write off Marcus Freeman forever for not being a good coordinator, a good future head coach at Notre Dame or anywhere else. It's game 1, week 1. Nobody should be willing to write him off after that. But at the same time, this was just unacceptable garbage. This was unacceptable. It was Brian Van Gorder style garbage. And I have zero patience for it. Zero. Okay? I don't care how many 4- and 5-star guys you recruit. If the guys you have now you don't teach to tackle, I got issues. My word. I love the personality and the recruiting and all that, but I need the on-field results to be now. I need them to be good, and I need them to be now. My target for the year is this defense giving up an average of 17 points a game. You gave up 38 to a rebuilding team. A mid-rebuild team. You gave up 38 points in front of the whole country. It's disgraceful football. It's just not good enough. It's bad. It's bad football. So I don't understand the aggressiveness early. We made some plays, but we also didn't finish. We were in the backfield a lot, but couldn't bother to tackle anybody or wrap up. Okay. But then later as the game went on, we got a little bit of a lead. They went into totally ultra-conservative, 3-man front, let them run the ball right at us, don't tackle, let them get 6 yards every carry. I hate it. I don't understand staying in that 3-man front. It makes no sense. This kid wasn't consistently making throws downfield. So instead of making him do that by stacking the line and begging him to throw, we did the opposite. He wasn't making good downfield throws, so then we decided to put 3 guys on the line and let them run the ball for 6 or 7 yards a clip instead down our throats. And then we stuck with that even when we saw it wasn't working. I don't understand, but I don't like it. In fact, I hate it. This isn't Cincinnati. This is big boy college football now. Get with the program. Recruiting is great, but it's half your damn job. Making sure your defense tackles is the second half. I'm not bailing on Freeman, but this was about as bad of an opening night as you could ever have for a guy in his position. This is one step up from BVG. The only difference is we found a way to get lucky and win the game. That's what this was, and I'm devastated. I am frustrated, hurt, angry, annoyed, and devastated that I vouch for this guy. This is what I get week 1. It's inconceivable to me that I saw what I saw defensively. I can't wrap my mind around it. It was just bad football for large parts of the game. Bad football. Okay. The huge gash plays, the TD bomb, the big run, just little plays where even if it's like a 5-yard gain on the ground that Florida State got, it should have been a loss or 0 yards. They were getting extra yardage on every single run play. I have no patience for that. They were hitting our guys and then getting 4, 5, 6 yards after contact, tougher than us most of the night. I could argue Florida State deserved to win this game a lot. I could make that argument. I think they went harder and were more consistent for most of the game, honestly. And I know I'm harder on Notre Dame just because that's my world. I didn't like what I saw for a lot of this. The secondary fails again. A big bomb, give up that pass and momentum. Your savior, Hamilton, did go for the eye fake. He followed the guy the other side of the field. Boom, right over the top. What did we say we were worried about? The defensive secondary. Boom, right over the top. Killed you. Momentum play. We're 4 feet behind the receiver, so don't like it. In fact, I hate it. Okay, 38 points. Unacceptable. Great plays by Kyle Hamilton and Lewis with the interceptions. Those guys saved the game defensively. We needed to steal those 3 possessions in order to win the game. If we didn't get those 3 picks, the game's over, we lose. And this show becomes even worse than it is right now in terms of my struggle to maintain calmness during this program. I thought going into this game, I would at least be able to trust the defense, and then I have my questions about the offense and what that's going to be in the offensive line and all that. Now I can't trust the defense or the offense. So that's where I am going into week 2 against a much more inferior opponent. But at the same time, you give up 38 to this team. I no longer trust you. I don't believe in you. You're starting from ground zero, and I need to see you play much better to gain back my trust. This is a dozen years into the Kelly era. Here we are again, week 1. It's an absolute shit show, a closer game than it should be. We're on the edge of our seats. You should not be there 12 years in. You shouldn't. We talked about the maturity level, where these different programs are at. Looked like they were on even footing last night. Totally unacceptable week 1 performance. It just is. It's not good enough. You got the win, but it's not good enough. For where you think you are as a program, not good enough. If somebody wanted to argue to me Notre Dame was ranked 9th, barely won, I don't think they're a top 10 team based on what I saw, I would tend to agree with you. I would. That didn't look like a top 10 team to me. Are you kidding me? So that's just my opinion. It is what it is. Here's something that really gets to me. When I say really, I mean like the most frustrating part of this whole dynamic with this game. Follow me here. People always say, oh, halftime adjustments. That's a big deal. That's where good coaches make their money. You know, get in there and adjust. Clark Lee was always really good at those adjustments defensively before Freeman got here. So let's explore. That's a good barometer of coaching, is how good you do with your halftime adjustments. So let's analyze that, shall we? So we come out of the half, okay, and immediately give up not a huge return, but a chunk return, giving up way too much yardage. Special teams fail right away out of the half. This rah-rah, we got to get it together at halftime. This is the sequence we had coming out of the half. Give up a chunk return for way too much yardage, and you should ever give up. You get into 3rd down and long, and you give up a 180-yard pass right down the field for a touchdown, getting burned, flipping momentum instantly. So you automatically have a special teams fail right out of the half. Then you have a defensive fail right out of the half. Oh, buddy, but I'm not done yet. It gets even juicier. It gets even better. Then they kick it off to us. Of course, we're too scared to return a kick, so we fair catch it, because that's just too scary for Notre Dame. We don't want to risk having to return a kick and see what had happened. Too much risk, so we take a knee every single time or fair catch every punt, just to be careful, to let our offense go run for under 2 yards a carry. We don't want to return the kick and maybe knock off some yardage. We would rather run for under 2 yards a carry and give up 4 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. That's a much better plan than seeing if an athlete can return a kick. So you give up the return, special teams fail. You give up the 3rd and long touchdown. That's a defensive secondary fail. They kick it back to us. We fair catch it. And then before our first snap, we're out of sync and we have to call a timeout. You can't make that up. That's just fail. That is just an epic failure in all 3 phases. Right there, that one sequence. You want to know how ready Notre Dame is for game 1. That one sequence is a fail for every single part of the team in a row coming out of halftime where you're supposed to make adjustments and get better. You had a fail on all 3 phases. This is what is sending me to an early grave. I have no patience for that. That is something I specifically look for. Let's see how you're going to come out of this half. And you failed on all 3 phases of the game. This is why I need Rogaine. This is why I need blood pressure medication. I can't handle it. It's unacceptable bad football. And a dozen years into a coaching regime, I have no patience for any of it. 0. None. 0. I have 0. This is unacceptable. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. Epic fail right out of the half. Coaching fail, execution fail, playing fail, all of it. Fail, 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 not good enough, not big boy football, not elite football, not even average mediocre football. Bad football I have no patience for in year 12 of a coach. Now, the tackling, that should get cleaned up and look better. How could the tackling not look better? It cannot physically get any worse than the tackling display I saw last evening. So I'm banking on the tackling getting better because I don't think it's possible for it to be any worse, quite frankly. Secondary, I don't know what you're going to do. You have one player back there, in my opinion, maybe two. I'll give you Kyle Hamilton and Lewis, but other than that, get prepared to be burned, just like we saw yesterday, I guess. I don't know. Makes me nervous. Didn't do anything to assuage my fears last night. All you did is dump gas on my fears. Seeing a Notre Dame secondary player 4 feet behind a receiver streaking down the field is something I've seen 846 times in my Notre Dame life. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm just damn sick of seeing that same play with different years and different jerseys replayed. I don't get it. Be better back there. So the tackling, I do think, should get cleaned up because it's physically impossible to be worse. Secondary, I'm just going to be worried, I guess. If it's not thrown at Hamilton, I'm going to worry. And nobody could tell me it's not justified based on what we saw. The number one critique, though, I have of this defense is why they went soft and stayed soft with that loose 3-man conservative front, just letting them run into us and gain as much yardage as they want, running the ball straight up the gut. I just don't get it. And you weren't wrapping up. You weren't tackling at first contact. And then we just kept sticking with that. Instead of being aggressive, we got soft, stayed with it, didn't work. Just horrible. 38 points to this team is absolutely inconceivable. It's unthinkable to me that that's what we allowed. Like, 178 yards passing, not that bad considering all of it came on that one play almost. 264 yards rushing. I would like to know, I bet you half of that is after first contact, to be honest. I bet you half of it's after first contact. We couldn't wrap up. I don't get it. So, Marcus, you're doing me wrong. I vouched for you. I was all in on you. I love your personality. I love your recruiting. But you're making us both look bad. You for what you did night one in front of this new group of people that wants you to succeed. And all you got was compared to BVG after night one. That is the worst it could have gone other than actually losing the game. So you're making us both look bad, buddy. Like, this ain't Cincinnati anymore. So you need to wake up and do what you need to do. But you're not in Cincy anymore, and you're making us both look bad, and I'm not here for it. You could recruit all the 4 or 5-star guys you want. They got the guys you do have to play on the field now, too. So I was bitterly disappointed with this defense overall, and I take it personally as the guy who vouched for Freeman. This hurts me to the core. And it'll probably look better next week because we're going down in terms of opponents we're playing and how good they are. But if you don't tighten some of this up, hell's coming for breakfast in the name of Wisconsin. And it ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be pretty if you don't wrap up and tackle against those guys. So, fail, bad. Good individual effort by certain players, but the scheme got bad. The fundamentals were bad. Gap integrity bad. Wrapping up bad. When I say reloading versus rebuilding, that looks like a rebuild to me. 38 points and all those issues, I can't call that a reload. I just can't. It's not good enough. Now, let's switch over to the offensive side of the ball. Here's the way I see it. There were lots of pluses and lots of minuses in the offense. I just worry that the minuses are such big minuses that they're going to drag down the pluses, which is, in a nutshell, my worst case scenario for the offense. Here's the deal. Number one, the offensive line is clearly a rebuild, not a reload. It is a problem and will hold us back on offense if they don't get better fast. By fast, I mean like this morning fast. Okay? 35 runs for 65 yards for 1.9 yards per carry and a long of 12 yards. That is a total and complete epic failure, okay? For a school that touts itself about O-line U, you don't get to pick what year you get to claim O-line U. If you're O-line U, that counts for every damn year. I don't need your excuses after a dozen years. Come in, whoever it is, and block people. Block people. 1.9 yards per carry is a disgrace. Okay, so save your O-line U when you can't rush it for 2 yards a carry against a rebuilding Florida State team. No excuses. If you're O-line U, throw an O-line out there that can actually block people in the run game. Horrific run blocking that I've quite frankly come to accept in big games of all kinds over the years, even on our teams that are good or undefeated. Okay, horrific run blocking. Fisher out already. He was already a question mark being a freshman. Now he's out injured. So that certainly doesn't help anything. You gave up 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss to rebuilding Florida State. Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm real concerned. The one thing I talked to you guys about in the pregame was Cone could be good or sufficient or adequate or okay. The receivers could actually make plays and be better, which I think we saw some of in this ball game. The running backs, we already think we know they're good. But if the offensive line can't hold it all together by blocking this all up, you can't be that good. There's a cap on how good you could be when the offensive line can't block. And guess what? They can't block. They can't block. So claim offensive U all you want. Quentin Nelson's not coming into play. He's gone. So my number one concern with the offense was justified, proved itself out. Under 2 yards a carry, you're a disgrace. You're a disgrace. What are you going to do against Wisconsin? You can't even run it. 65 yards rushing against rebuilding Florida State. How do you think that's going to go against Wisconsin in a few weeks? Huh? Unacceptable. You don't get to pick and choose which year to claim O-line U. If you want that moniker, back it up every single year. Put guys in there that can play. Your depth and how many guys went to the league and graduated is not my problem. It's your problem. Put guys out there that can block people. It's just not good enough. So, yes, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. And it's very, very frustrating because I saw some things I liked out of the quarterback. I saw some capabilities of the running backs. I saw a lot I liked out of the wide receivers and tight ends. But guess what? Without a good offensive line, they're never going to be what I want them to be because that line won't allow them to be what we need them to be and want them to be. It's super frustrating. I'm seeing some athletes here ready to break out, but the line can't block enough to do it. So until that gets fixed, or if that gets fixed, this is going to be a struggle nonstop. It's just going to be a struggle. So that's unfortunate because there were some very bright signs we saw from the offense. You're just never going to be that good with an O-line that can't run for 70 yards. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And it looks familiar every time that Notre Dame offensive line gets in a big-time game with all the lights on. They can't run the ball. They just can't run the ball. So it's super frustrating. I have zero patience for it. Zero, especially with all the bragging Notre Dame fans do about O-line U. That's the part that gets me. You don't get to pick and choose. You want that, it has to apply all the time. Okay? All the time. Cone, 26 of 35, 366 yards, 4 touchdowns. The one interception was on a Hail Mary. I'm not going to blame him for that. He had to throw it there. I wish it'd be nice if we had a quarterback that could get the ball to the end zone, but this is Notre Dame. What do you expect? Threw an interception instead. I'm not going to nail him on that. So Cone looked good, pretty much, but would look much better with a decent offensive line. That's my takeaway. Clearly, he's not a runner. Clearly, he's not a skilled scrambler like Ian Book. So when that blocking fails, so does the play. That's the biggest problem I see with this dynamic with Cone in the offensive line. Ian Book could make more plays when that line breaks down and he's on the move with his legs or running. Cone is not good at that. So if you don't give him a pocket and protection to throw, this is going to look ugly, and it's going to get real ugly when we play good defenses. So that he's fine. I was fine with it, but he is going to be limited due to this offensive line. He ain't the scrambler Book is, and it looks like he's going to need to be because the line isn't doing a good enough job. They're just not. They're just not. But Cone, I thought, was fine. I'd love to see what he could do with the real offensive line, though. Then I'd have a real litmus test if you gave him even adequate protection. Not 9 tackles for loss and 4 sacks week 1. No. Not good enough. Running back, 1.9 yards per rush. That's an epic failure, but guess what? It's not the running back's fault. Any of the 65 yards rushing we did get were primarily due all to the runner's effort and knocking guys off and dragging guys forward. There was no help at all from the offensive line. It is a disgraceful waste of our talent and depth at running back that O-line U cannot block for them and showcase what they could do. It is super frustrating. Under 2 yards a carry, 12 yards is your longest run against rebuilding Florida State. It's a disgrace. It just is. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. It's awful. Terrible. Unacceptable. O-line U, they call it. Doesn't look like it this year. Doesn't look like it this year. So, running backs didn't look great, and it's not their fault either. Not their fault. Those guys are going to be held back all year from what they should be because the offensive line can't get it together and block anybody or move anybody. Period. Tight end, Michael Mayer's a beast, but he had multiple huge drops. The best tight end in the country doesn't do that with the game on the line. So he might still be the best one in the country, but he's got some making up to do. He had a couple of critical drops. Okay? Still, 9 catches, 120 yards with the touchdown. I'm not hesitating to throw him the ball even with the drops. There is no amount of pass attempts that go to Michael Mayer where I'm going to say it's too many. So keep throwing him the ball. The drops were uncharacteristic. Bad times, bad plays. We needed those catches when he dropped it. I don't expect that to be an ongoing problem into the season. Again, there is no amount of gives to him that I'm going to say is too much. Wide receiver. I saw some positives. Guys stepped up. Austin, 4 for 91, a touchdown. Wilkins, big touchdown catch. Lindsey had a couple. I saw some things I really liked from the wide receivers. I saw some go up and get it, fight, want to on 50-50 balls that were big plays in the game by both Austin and Wilkins. Love to see that again. This group is going to be limited in their potential based on that offensive line. I'm telling you, it's the worst case scenario for this offense, that all the other parts are good and have good talent, and the offensive line can't do anything to let it show. That is my biggest fear offensively, and it may not show against Toledo or Purdue, but against a team like Wisconsin, that's going to show up, rear its ugly head. So you got a lot of work to do there on offensive line. That was by far the number one biggest problem with the offense yesterday. Super frustrating because there's other guys here that could break out, but they just need a little bit of blocking, and we didn't provide any. Special teams. Listen, ultimately, they ended up winning the game. You got to credit Dorr. He made a big, high-pressure kick in a tough environment when we needed to get the hell out of there with a win, and he delivered. So big-time credit to him making his kicks. The clutch one at the end, credit to him. I don't like allowing that chunk return and then the touchdown. I hate that. Special teams a big deal to me. I made a big deal about what a good way to switch momentum, returning a kick or a punt for a big chunk yardage. Between punts and kicks combined, We returned one of them for 4 yards all night. Here's what really frustrated me. I made a big deal about not wanting to see walk-on Matt Salerno back there fair catching everything. We actually decided to put our good athletes, like our electric speed guys back there, and then had them fair catch it, do the same thing you would have done with Salerno. I didn't see any effort to make any moves there, break open the game, flip field position, nothing. There were some of the kicks fine. It made sense that there wasn't anything there, kick too deep, whatever. Some of these, there was some room, and we fair caught it, didn't even make an effort. I will never, ever, ever understand why Notre Dame doesn't value special teams as a third phase weapon. I just don't get it. I'll never understand it. It makes no sense when you have the speed, athleticism, and talent we have back there to not use it. Hate it. Hate it. Overall, yes, you won. But this is not what game 1 should look like in year 12 of a head coach. That is my biggest takeaway. Biggest takeaway. 38 points allowed, absolutely unthinkable, unconscionable to me that we'd be sitting here and Freeman would give up 38 points in his first game at Notre Dame. Absolute shameful garbage. 1.9 yards rushing. Absolutely unacceptable, but something I've just come to get used to with the Notre Dame offensive line. Reload versus rebuild, both at the same time. Very frustrating in year 12 that you're not just reloading, keep it moving with superior talent. Doesn't appear that we're in that position. Very frustrating. So I saw some reloading, some rebuilding, but the rebuilding parts are going to drag down the reloading ones, and that sucks. That is super frustrating to have to watch the rest of this year. Hey, I'm open to the idea that things could get a lot better, a lot faster on the offensive line, but especially now with an injury to one of the starters, forgive me for thinking that just ain't going to happen. You might be able to get by Toledo, Purdue, whatever. Hell's coming to breakfast in the form of Wisconsin. You got a few weeks to get it straight, get it figured out. They say most teams improve between week 1 and week 2, the most they're ever going to improve over the year. You better hope that's the case or it's time. Okay, so again, overall, the win isn't all that matters, but it is what matters the most. So be glad we escaped this one. There is certainly a lot to look at on tape to improve moving forward. This is not what I was envisioning at all. In a lot of ways, this was way worse than even my low-level expectations for this game. Be lucky you escaped, but this was an unacceptable effort on a lot of fronts. It just was. It just was for where this team is. It's 12 years into a new coach. You got to have things more organized on night 1, week 1, game 1 in front of the whole country than what we saw. I just need more. It's year 12. I just need more. Okay? So, some bright spots, certainly lots to worry about, but 1-0. I'm open to the idea this could all tighten up. I just have my doubts. But it's better for me to have my doubts when we're 1-0 than 0-1. I'll tell you that for sure. So that's a fact. Here's the other thing. I had so much fun with that pregame chat show. I think we might do something in the next day or two to do a live chat just for you guys to interact about your thoughts about this ball game, just to see where you guys are at. So maybe we'll do that in the next 2 nights. I'll announce something because I had a great time. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about what you saw and felt from this ball game. So that's going to be it. Hey, if you're going to have a bunch of worries, it may as well be a 1-0 and not 0-1. But this is not the start I was looking for.